Hey guys, welcome back to Ponderings from Palm Coast. I'm Mark Webb, and today I have Kathy Duffy here to add to the conversation of what's happening locally, nationally. But before we get into that, I want to extend an invitation to join me. I speak to and read and chat with a plethora of people throughout the area that have some phenomenal views and comments, and I want to elevate that. I want to give people an opportunity to come and sit here and share their thoughts. How are you touched by things that are happening today? What are the opinions? Because those stories and how we share them, I believe, is what is going to motivate people to do things in the future besides sit on the couch and yell at the TV all day. So you are invited. You are welcome to come and join me. And I don't care what politics you're on. I extend invitations to Republicans and conservatives and non-party affiliate. You all have a voice. You all have something to say, and I want to hear it. So I want you to ponder that. Reach out to me in the comments, or I have an email at Ponderings from Palm Coast, and get into the conversation. Right, Kathy?
Absolutely.
Because
You have the First Amendment right.
That's right. And as we've seen recently, sadly, there's a risk, but there's also a risk for doing nothing. So with that, Kathy Duffy, welcome to the program. I really appreciate it. I always enjoy all the incredible information. So first, just give us a base. Tell us a little bit about Kathy. How'd you get here? I know you're a retired librarian, so that's
I've lived all over the country. I've lived in New Jersey. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in Oregon. I spent some time in Great Britain. And now I live in Florida. So I've experienced north, south, east, and west.
Well, and also being married to a military, you bring that to the table.
Yeah.
And all that comes with that, right?
Yeah. You started the conversation with something that triggered a quote. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man is threatened. And that was JFK. And what we are seeing is our rights being trampled into the dust. ICE in particular, there are over 600 children in detention. Now, those kids have been separated from their families. There is absolutely no program that I know of to reunite them after deportation. ICE is now discontinued medical care for people in their custody. This is going to cost more lives. But I think there's also another issue here. We are talking about kids from Somalia, kids from all Spanish countries in particular, since they seem to be going after South America and Central American countries in particular. The number of countries you're talking about, the number of kids that are being abused, okay? You don't think that some of those kids are going to grow up and they're going to come back, okay? We are making an entire generation of future terrorists. Kids that are going to be very easy to radicalize. And it isn't going to be just a couple countries on the other side of the world in the Mideast. It's going to be our neighboring countries. And we are talking a lot of them. I think that's something nobody's paying any attention to. The 5-year-old recently that ICE detained, I could not watch that without crying. It just really, really upset me. And I have whiplash. Why the hell are we going to Iran because they're shooting their protesters when we're shooting our protesters in this country? I mean, that's enough to give a person whiplash. Why is it okay for us to do it, but it's not okay for them to do it?
Yeah, no, justification is such the biggest challenge. I was speaking with somebody over the weekend who is an ICE supporter. He sees the need of going out and collecting, gathering, removing undocumented immigrants that he believes they're all criminals, even though we know the numbers are not the same. And I pointed out to him a couple of interesting facts. Tom Holman. Does everybody know who Tom Holman is? He is in charge. He's the czar. Well,
The idiot that wants to come down in helicopters on Chicago
but did you know
apartment buildings.
that he did the exact same job for Obama? For the whole 8 years Obama was in office. And factually, President Obama removed almost 3 million, more than any other president to this point, had removed undocumented criminal immigrants
They did without
with
shooting
no armed ICE agents in the street. So when I was having this conversation and I said, do you think that this action they're having now is the choice they choose to make? And I believe they are. And I believe that they are intentionally sending a message. On Saturday, we had a phenomenal rally here in Palm Coast in 2 locations. It's estimated that at least 500 citizens between the 2 locations came out for just an hour to practice their constitutional right to freely and without any type of insanity hold a sign and wave at people.
And none of them were masked either, were they?
None of us were masked. But the point I'm making is I talked to some people that were scared and didn't want to come. I'm afraid I'm going to get shot in Palm Coast on the side of the road. And they wouldn't attend. That, I feel, is part of the message, as we've heard every day from the leadership talking about, well, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He shouldn't have been protesting in the street. So it's, don't be fooled. The message is control. The message is removing the voice of you. So
and
you
they're
were saying,
only going after cities with black mayors and with women mayors and with Democrats. Okay? I was worried that when they were done with the immigrants, they were going to go after the gays, but I think they might be going after the Democrats. Even the Gestapo wasn't masked. Okay? There was absolutely no reason for that whatsoever. And, they're chipping away at our First Amendment rights all the way down the line. Where does a president who was taken to court and lost for running a fraudulent college, where does he get the right to tell Harvard what the hell they can teach to their students? I mean, that just defies, your brain just does this little seizure thing. The tearing down and changing exhibits in museums from the Smithsonian to the African American Museum. I'm waiting for them to go after the Native American Museum. That's got to be next on the list. Trying to change history. Firing the head of the Library of Congress because, well, there are pornographic children's books in there. First of all, no children are allowed into the Library of Congress. It is Congress's library. People can't go in and borrow those books. And they're required by law that every book that is published and distributed in this country has to send a copy to the Library of Congress. But, why let facts or law get in the way? Veterans. A lot of the programs for people to work at home were designed to help employ veterans that have come back that have disabilities from the various of our many, many wars that we've been in, from Vietnam on, okay? We could run out our time talking about them all, to help them with employment, okay? It was a way of employing veterans. They're using veterans. There is an AI program that is now being used by a number of healthcare companies so that when you apply or your doctor applies for something to be covered, it'll automatically get turned down by this AI. So unless you appeal it, that's the only time it gets to a real human being. And they implemented that in the Veterans Administration to test it out, which means they were denying a lot of veterans who needed care to test out this AI program.
So you bring up healthcare and whatever. How's your experience been with that? I know that you are involved in, unfortunately, a lot of the local healthcare and services and things. How's that going for you,
You don't get
generally?
to be 77 without supporting the medical community. I think I've sent several doctors' children through college. But I have a number of friends who have like heart conditions or even some of your blood thinners. Equus, right. That can cost as high as $500 a bottle.
Did you start a story about that this weekend?
And without it, your chances of having a blood clot or a serious problem with your heart is very high. And their medical expenses have gone from $120 to $500 and $600 for the same bottle of pills. And trust me, I'm on Social Security. I could not afford for my medicine to jump $400 a bottle, okay? And I don't understand. I'm actually more these days a socialist than a Democrat, because I look at the Nordic countries.
So you can be both.
Yes.
The mayor of New York
Yes.
is a democratic socialist.
Yes. The Nordic countries have healthcare that's guaranteed, childcare that's guaranteed, education that's guaranteed, and people say, oh yeah, but they're small countries. Well, if they can do it, and we're that 10 times bigger and 10 times richer, you mean tell me we can't do it? Of course we can do it. We can probably do it better. But, for some reason the Republicans, well, not some reason. Okay, let's go back. Hospitals, when I was growing up, were nonprofit corporations. And then, you see, they started contributing to political campaigns, and they were very helpful to Richard Nixon. And so after he came into office, he made it so that hospitals could be for-profit corporations. That was the beginning of the end of decent health care in this country. And the
Yeah.
pharmaceutical industry doesn't want regulations, so they go after, they contribute more to the Republicans than to the Democrats. Regulation seems to be a real hang-up for the Republicans. They want all these regulations because they are so sure that fraud is out there. They are trying, they are just sure everybody is trying to fraud the government. My experiences in life are that people who are sure of that are usually people who are doing it, number one. And number two, equality. I don't know how that became a bad word. If there was a baseline of health care and everybody got it, then there's no fraud. Okay? When people are equal and they're getting equal treatment, there's less fraud. I want the government to send me a copy of the report on the fraud that was in Wheels on Meals. Okay? I'm sorry, I don't believe there was fraud in Wheels on Meals. There's no fraud in the library and museums in this country. They are not defrauding people. If you ask me, Congress is what's defrauding us currently. Things like FEMA, okay? Trump has started the dissolution of FEMA. We live in the state of Florida. Last year was really weird. We didn't have any hurricanes land in Florida. Okay, I've been living here 18 years now. I think maybe it's only twice in 18 years that that's happened. Most years, we get 2 or 3. And when you think about some of the hurricanes we've had, like Homestead, okay, completely wiped out an entire community. Fort Myers, who still hasn't recovered completely, okay? Now, states are supposed to pick up the tab when one of these disasters happen. Well, they had tornadoes in St. Louis over a year ago. And with no preparation or time to budget for something like that, they were told, you're on your own, you gotta do it. Most of the people, over 150 people, lost their homes. The majority of them are still living in tents, think about that, over this wonderful freezing sleet, snow weekend in that area of the country, in tents on their property, because there has been no help for those people. Now, if we have one of those Fort Myers hurricanes here in Florida, the state isn't going to have the money for that. But even the little bit that they did, what happens when the second hurricane of the season hits Florida? And God forbid, because there have been years when we got 3. I just hope one of them wipes Mar-a-Lago off the face of the map.
Well, and it is, as I understand, the purpose, one of the many purposes of our federal government is to come to the assistance of everybody and each state that is woefully not prepared for situations and disasters, whether it's the fires in LA or the hurricane that hit New Orleans of the red state of Louisiana multiple times, or Arkansas, or wherever. The government, which we all contribute to at some level, has the organization, the deep pockets, and its purpose. its number one purpose is to serve we the people. And to have a government go, well, I'm not going to give you money in California for those fires because you're a Democrat. Or what he's doing now, where he's cutting federal funding for school programs and lunch programs for fear of fraud, which, by the way, is unconstitutional. But it's also unconstitutional for the state of California to no longer send its billions of dollars to the federal government, which Governor Newsom has suggested may be on the option because, hey, who cares what the
Well, if
Constitution
he's going to
says?
stop sending money to the blue states, then I think the blue states need to hang on to their damn
Well,
money.
is that the world where we want to live? Is that where you want to be when you're sitting here when a disaster occurs? Sadly, one of those hurricanes or fire or tornado that you as a citizen loses everything and you think, who's going to come help me?
There were 5 earthquakes in 48 hours one day last week. Okay? Alaska, Oregon, California, and then there were 2 on the other side of that plate. Yellowstone is rising. Okay? There is a section of Yellowstone the size of Chicago that is rising. Okay? So we have one of those big disasters. We're going to sit around and not help those people because what? They're Democrats, they're from blue states. That is not what this country's about. And you have to wonder, I wonder sometimes who's running the government. I see Trump get up there and blather and dance and lose his train of thought or go on and on about, electric cars and sharks and toilets.
He calls that weaving.
Yeah, baloney. That's more, it's the same thing as Biden, except he doesn't stutter. Okay? It's obvious that he's in some, if you ask me, some form of dementia. So who's running the government? I think Stephen Miller and Russell Voigt, who wrote the 2025 document, are the people who are running the government right now. And I do think that what Minnesota recently did with closing down, shutting down businesses and schools and people going home and saying, we're not going to participate, in civic or anything until ICE leaves. I think the other blue states need to step in and we need to stay home. Because, this whole thing about the economy, it doesn't work if we don't go and do the work. That corporate head guy that's getting $700-800 million for running his corporation. Well, that corporation doesn't work if all the little worker bees don't go in to do the work. And those little worker bees haven't gotten raises in years. When I was growing up, everybody got a raise every year. Not anymore. And most of the people being hired are only getting minimum wage. And it has so distorted the economy. I think the only way to fix it is to break it. I really do. But there are some positive things. I have a Post-it note near my computer. It has one big word on it that says Dunkirk. The Battle of Dunkirk, there were thousands of soldiers on the beaches of Germany, and they were stranded there, and they were being bombarded. And the ordinary British citizens got in their boats, their sailboats, their motorboats, their fishing boats, and they went across the channel and they brought the bulk of those soldiers home. Because the power is really in the people, okay? And when I was growing up, when they wanted to show you that, they would take a piece of paper and rip it in half. And if they wanted to show you what you and your friend could do, they'd take 2 pieces of paper and rip it in half. And if you had a group, they'd do 3 or 4 pieces. Boom, they'd still rip it in half. Then they'd hold up a phone book. Y'all remember phone books? And they'd hold up a great big phone book. And guess what? You couldn't rip it, because together, this country can do anything it sets its mind to. We were worried about the Russians putting up Sputnik. And our president got up and said, we're going to go to the moon. And goddamn it, in 10 years, we were on the moon. We can do anything that we set our mind to. But we got to get rid of some of those people in Congress that are sitting around collecting their wonderful health care, way better than any of you have, okay? And they're getting their, incredible pension for the rest of their life, even they only served 1 term, okay? We need to get rid of some of those people. We need to get some young people in there. We need to address things and make things equal. Equality is not a bad word. And if it takes national strikes to do it, then so be it. And I think the number of people coming out to protest is increasing. I think we're getting close to that. Is it 12%? I think
3.5%.
Yeah, 3.5. I think no, it's higher than that, because
We came close to that in the last King's rally.
Right, and I do think that some national strikes would have to have an effect. And we have to stop victimizing. And the language, oh my God, you just don't. It used to be Italians and spics and that kind of language, and it was just not right. And now we have presidents giving the finger and using foul language. I mean, what a terrific example that sets. We have to stop victimizing immigrants. Okay, immigrants come here, they work hard. Some of them, first of all, undocumented immigrants paid $17 billion in taxes. Do you know how much taxes GE paid last year? 0. I think we need to redefine who the welfare queens in this country are. It's the corporations. That's who the welfare queens are. And for those who say, oh, no, it's groups like Antifa. You want to find the Antifa headquarters? You go to Arlington Cemetery, because that's where Antifa is. Those are the people who were anti-fascist and went to war and sacrificed their life to prevent fascism, which is currently taking over our country. They stopped it. We need to stop it.
So I started to ask people like us, what should the Democrats focus on? What should be their message? What do you think, as a democratic socialist, should be the message that we organize and get behind? Because I don't believe that attacking the Trump administration is a winnable plan. We tried that in 2024, and that's not what the voting people, it appears, wants. What's your passion, Kathy? What would you like to see a consistent message coming out from the top of our leadership all the way down to us knocking on a door, talking to our neighbors.
All the broken promises. If you go to the supermarket and you go to buy hot dogs and you want the all beef hot dogs so that you don't get a lot of chemicals, a packet of Hebrew National hot dogs will cost you $9.99 for 5 hot dogs. Don't tell me the price of groceries have come down. I'm on Social Security. I used to make tomato pies. It's an Amish thing. I can't afford to buy enough tomatoes to make a tomato pie now. Most of the time, the tomatoes are damn near $2 a piece.
So you think affordability, may be the
affordability
message?
And healthcare. And I want to see, our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence is coming up. People are talking about celebrations. I want to see a funeral. I want to see a funeral. We now have exactly what we were trying to get away from when the Declaration of Independence was signed.
The agreed date and time, and we are approaching this July, the 250th celebration of
And I
the
want
United States as we want it to be.
I want a statesman to take over. Actually, Charlie McCarthy's lawyer is the person who
mentored
trained and mentored Donald Trump.
That is correct.
And also was instrumental in defending some of the Nazis in the
Right.
Nuremberg trials.
But it is, you bring up McCarthy, and it is important to acknowledge that it was the Republican Party that shut him down
Yes.
and said, "We do not have you no decency, sir." Came from a Republican
Republican.
senator.
And from the media. And a
Well-
lot of the media has been muzzled by their corporate bosses. Everything from, I used to subscribe to the Washington Post, and although they have some terrific reporters, and I still listen to their podcasts, I will not subscribe until he no longer owns that
And those are
publication.
actions that we
Yeah.
as citizens can do. And I've walked away from several streaming channels for a variety of things. But to me personally, the design of the functionality of our government is that there be a separation of service, of job description. When Nixon got in trouble and was fighting, his own party, the Republican Party, went to him and said, "If this goes to impeachment, we will impeach you. We do not tolerate this kind of action within our party." And so he resigned. And I know for a fact that even here in Palm Coast, there is a level of tolerance within both the parties here, the Republicans and the Democrats.
I am wearing a whistle.
Exactly. So, Kathy, final thoughts? Any kind of books or anything you want to recommend that people might be able to get out and read?
There are a couple of really good ones. I'm actually going to mention a novel.
Great.
Okay. Louise Penny writes a mystery series, and she's a Canadian author, and they are set in the Sûreté, which is the French in Montreal, their FBI equivalent. And I was reading this book because I couldn't take any more nonfiction currently. So I thought, I'll read this mystery, and I love her books. And I usually read them in one night or two at the max. And I started reading this book, and it was about the big lie. And this upset me because, of course, we're getting a lot of the big lie, okay? And I'm like, And then they're talking about social media. and they're talking about conspiracy theories, and then how that conspiracy theory is going to be used to take over Canada. And while I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my God, because he's already threatened Canada, threatening Greenland. And while I'm reading the book, we're invading Venezuela. Okay, and I'm like, I don't think I can take any. I'm now only reading fantasy and romance books because I need
You need a break.
a break.
Absolutely.
I play a lot of calming music.
Mm-hmm.
I do not watch television news anymore of any kind, although I do listen to a couple podcasts. I do it when I'm doing things like scrubbing, weed pulling.
Absolutely.
You know.
Driving around.
Yeah.
Well, promoting podcast is what we're all about.
Yeah.
And having an opportunity to have a voice to share is what I am challenging you to come and get involved. I have a seat for you. I'd love to have people come here and share and talk about things that are going on, that there's concern. We all have a voice, and I hear it constantly with people's opinions. But what we need to do is be more vocal.
Yes.
And we need to be heard, as whether we do a national strike to be heard, or we do a No Kings rally in which millions of people, or even one person standing on a street corner with a sign, it's our voice. And
Yeah.
if we don't practice it, we will lose it.
Oh, by the way, if you see people walking around Palm Coast wearing whistles, haven't seen a lot of ICE agents, although I know they are here. And our sheriff, Stolley, supports ICE and is holding detainees locally. And even if I don't get to blow the whistle, I'm wearing the whistle as a protest against local policy of supporting ICE. So if you see people with the whistle, or if you want a whistle, get in touch with me. I've handed out over 120 whistles, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
It's not just local policy, isn't it the whole state now? DeSantis has.
So the question is, in clarification, yes, our governor, DeSantis, mandated that every county sheriff would get behind the support of the ICE efforts in Florida. A few fought back. He threatened to fire them. So there is an agreement of some type, I haven't seen it, in which Sheriff Staley and the other sheriffs have agreed to support ICE. And I know for a fact that the process is pretty simple. Flagler County Sheriff ascertains the situation, or they pull someone over, or they see someone that is of some suspect for whatever the reason, they will be detained. ICE will be contacted. They will show up and take possession of the individual and process them at our own county's expense and retained at our county jail, which is a question I plan on asking our county commissioners this coming week when they're having a joint conversation. I want to know how much the federal government, ICE, owes the county of Flagler County for the operations that we haven't approved to fund these actions. But that's here nor there. What I'd like to do, close this out, some final thoughts, and then I want to invite you to come and sit with me for whatever reason, to talk about whatever you wish, to get it heard beyond you screaming at the TV. Or even, we take great enjoyment in our Blue Forum. It's a phenomenal, the group's growing, but they're all like-minded people hearing things they've already understood and known. The goal that I'm asking everyone is to speak to your neighbor. Speak to the guy who's bagging your stuff at, wear a shirt, wear a hat, wear a pin that says who you are, how you feel. Start the conversation. Remember, we want to engage, not enrage, because no one will have a conversation when you're screaming at them. So any last thoughts, Kathy?
I just want people to do something. Something
Absolutely.
that they think is important. You can't sit home and ignore what's going on. You just can't. I marched in the 60s against Vietnam and for the Women's March. And it wasn't until they started banning books in Florida that I decided I had to get my butt back out there because it's not right. And our freedoms, I've lived over in Europe, and they don't have a Bill of Rights. We don't want to lose them. We don't want to lose them. We won't recognize ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And participation is not an option.
I don't have to agree with you. Just come out. It's your right.
Absolutely. Well, Kathy, thanks for joining me today. Okay. Always enjoy the passion and your views on how things are and how things are touching you. So guys, participate. Reach out in the comments. If you have an idea, if you have a passion, if you have a story to tell, let us know. We'll reach out to you and give you an opportunity to speak. It's now. The time is now that this needs to be talked about, shown, the light, the flashlight, anything you got to get involved.
And they're shooting people in the streets. You need to get yourself out there.
Absolutely. All right, guys, remember, like and subscribe. We want to grow this channel. And with that, please stay safe, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.